One. Hi, YouTube fans. This is Matt of Post April 6th YouTube channel. I'm going to do it again. Yep. I'm going to do the third version of Bradley Marshall Breadmen. Now this one, like the second one, is different from the very first. He doesn't live in Indiana. He doesn't live in New Mexico. And he doesn't live in Arizona. He lives in Ellsworth, Maine. That's the coastal area of the state of Maine. And it's not, I don't know how close it is, but it's fairly close. I would think like 40, within 35 to 50 miles or even less than that to Kennebunkport. So, this guy was born later than the first and the second version. He was born, and I'm not joking, because it was 2 days after a very, 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 very bad murder happened in Brentwood, Los Angeles. His date of birth is June 14th, 1994. 2 days after Nicole Brown Simpson was violently, and very violently murdered by O.J. Sick-Ass Simpson. Yes, you did it, O.J. Don't you say otherwise, because most of the world don't believe your crap about that you were framed. You did it. Okay, I need to simmer down. Location of his birth, I've already said it before, but I'll say it again. Ellsworth, Maine. And I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that the county of the name of the county that Ellsworth is in is Hancock County. At least I think so anyway. I could be wrong on that. But it could be Hancock County, Maine. And it says, where did Bradley get his high school education? Ellsworth High School, class of 2012. Employment experience. His first job was a shelving clerk aide. I think that would be the title of it. Instead of just saying shelver, he's a he does replacement of books back onto the bookshelf of public libraries. And he was a shelving aide at the Maine Ellsworth Public Library from September 5th, 2010 until August 11th, 2013. Okay, so he took a few days to move about 6 to 8 miles away from Ellsworth, a little further inland, to LAMOINE, LAMOINE, Maine. And he immediately got a job as a a cashier and a food server at LAMOINE Marketplace. Now I've checked this unit out, this place of business, from photographs only. Never been to Maine, never. It is not a convenience store and gas station combined, it's convenience store only. So, on August 15th, 2013, he was hired, and he remained working there until August 21st, August 21st, 2017. August 21st, 2017. Now, here is his previous acting experience prior to moving to Hollywood, California. In the spring of 2011, he was the leading star of Enter the Body, a Shakespearean play. Now, I do not know anything about the play itself, but he was the lead man who did most of the acting, most of the talking, and everybody paid attention to him, and he was front and center, so that he would get all the audience's attention through and through, and they were thinking about nothing else. And I mean nothing. Because his acting was so good. Second acting experience. A parody play against President Nixon that he did in November of 2014. And I believe this would have been done at a community center or a church that had a stage set up on the inside of the worship center, the area where the church sermons were preached, church service was done. And what it was he played a guy who was Bobby Kennedy, and Bobby Kennedy comes in and gets all uppity with him, and the Nixon character says, "Oh, let me tell you, Jew boy," or no, actually he didn't use those words. He goes, "Let me tell you, Bobby, I'm not going to put up with any of that crap. I'm not going to put up with any of that crap. You go right ahead and get your colleagues at the Justice Department to take action against me, and we're going to fight back. We're going to play for keeps. We're going to get you. Don't you worry about it." That was just what the Nixon character, was the lead character, said, and then Bobby just was like, "Good day, sir." And he walks away. Okay, so this is how he winds up living in Los Angeles, Hollywood area of Los Angeles, California. About 3 weeks before he officially had his last day at LAMOINE market, a lady who was quite persuasive, had a lot of pull, had a lot of clout with the movie industry's talent agent, acting agent, pulled him off to the side when the store was almost ready to close, about 20 minutes to a half hour. And she said to him, he says, "Mr. Breadmen, not only do I really like your last name, I like your eyes, and I like your eyebrows, and I like how friendly you are to people, and I also like how you can change your voice so well just to entertain customers. And I also like how you stand up and how you can have such really good professionalism, but at the same time, really good body language. I think he'd make a very good actor." And he's like, "You mean it? You really mean it?" Oh my God. I'm going to become a Hollywood actor. And she says, Yes, you can. But you got to say yes to letting me help you. Well, I'm going to have to know a lot more before I say yes. And she says, it's understandable. That's a wise decision to make. And then he says, okay, I really can't talk about it here because from over there you see that surveillance camera? And she says, yes, I do. If I'm spending a lot of time talking to you, the owner's really going to chew me out. I mean, the owner's a nice man, but if I'm spending too much time talking to somebody, he's really going to talk pretty tough to me. And that guy can have a really cold monotone when he's pissed. And she says, oh, yeah, well, that's the way it has to be when you run a business like this. So he's doing what he has to do. He's not acting like that just to throw his weight around and be egotistical. And he says, yeah, that's probably true. And then she says, okay. And then she reaches into her purse and she gives him a business card. And on the business card is an email address, the address of her office in Los Angeles 90028, which is Hollywood, California. And there's a direct phone number, a fax number, and a cellular phone number. And then he says, so you got, he says to her, ask the right question. He says, you got several forms of contact here. He says, how would you like me to contact you? She says, you see the one where it's cellular? He says, yep. He says, why don't you call me tomorrow before you come to work? So, and I think you should call so you can have at least 20 minutes to a half hour to talk things over. He says, okay. That's more than fair that you would advise me to do things that way. And she says, well, I better get going now. It's really nice to meet you, Mr. Breadmen. And then she says, oh, would you like me to call you Bradley or Brad? He says, doesn't matter. You can call me Bradley. A lot of people do that. All right, Bradley. And then she puts her hand up and they shake hands. And she's got a really nice smile. And she's quite well dressed in a lady's suit with a really nice dress. And then she gets in her car and she drives away. See, the reason why she was there, not because she was looking for actors per se. She was there on vacation. But when she saw him, because she'd come in several times. Sorry, I got a bit distracted. There was a noise coming from the air conditioner, and that's why I had to stop what I was doing and look things over. Okay, anyways, back to the third version of Bradley Marshall Breadmen. Okay, so she was there. She was in LAMOINE, Maine, on vacation, and she probably owned a small little cabin, or had access to rent it whenever she decided to go out there on vacation. A nice little cabin that's only about 500-600 square feet, which is more than enough room for her. And she'd been in there several times, like I've already said before. And on the visit where she gives him his business card, and then she says some encouraging words that persuade him to get involved. She was there for at least the fourth time, possibly as many visits as 5 to 6 times. It could have been the fifth or the sixth time. Sixth time. Excuse me. My tongue slipped. For those of you who don't know, it's a side effect of the brain hemorrhage I had 15 years ago. Yeah, it was a cerebral brain hemorrhage. I'm not joking. It's true. But anyways, I'll talk more about that some other time. What happened 15 years ago. Back to the story. So he does the duties that he's supposed to do before he closes the store. And the store, I would assume, would close around 9:30 p.m. And around 9:45 p.m., he's got all of the the stuff that he's supposed to do before they close, and the things that he's only supposed to do after they close. And then he, at 9:45 p.m., he shuts off all the lights, locks the doors, and puts in the alarm code, and gets in his car, takes off. And he drives at least a couple of miles to a neat little house that he has ownership of, that was about 440 square feet. It was a small one-bedroom, one-bath. That is, and the bedroom's not very big at all. In fact, he has a full-size mattress in there, and he has everything placed, the furniture, the bed, the chest of drawers and whatnot. He has everything strategically placed so that the room doesn't look overcrowded and idiotic and unsightly. After he gets a good night's sleep, and he makes himself some breakfast, and he comes in at about, I would say about 1:30 p.m. to work a 8-hour shift. Around 12:30, 12:45, he calls her. And she says that she wants him to come over to the cabin. It's going to be her and another guy who is a motion picture consultant. Motion picture consultant and script consultant. And she's going to ask him to act out a certain way. And she also says that she will co-sign for an apartment for him to move into. And then after he moves, a few days after he moves in there, he's going to be going to some acting classes for about at least 3 weeks. Because what they would like for him to do is to star in a fairly low budget movie where I believe the budget for the movie itself is $12.5 million. $12.5 million nowadays is cheap. It's the equivalency of spending only $400,000 back in 1960 on the movie Psycho, or some low-budget movie that would have a different type of acting style and a different acting, a different genre of cinema, of what you would see in a movie theater. And then after they've been talking for at least 22 minutes. He looks at his watch and says, oh, he says, and the talent agent's name is Caroline Sandra Lagranda. The last name is spelled Lagranda. Lagranda, I know, will sound a bit Hispanic, which people who are of Hispanic ancestry could very well have that last name, but I think it may be of some other ethnic background of how the last name was actually formed, meaning European ancestry. People who were ancestors who lived in Europe. You know, Spain, Italy, Ireland, England, Scotland, Paris, you name it, as far as your European ancestry. So he gets to work right on time, and he works a couple more days, and I believe it would have been August 1st. August 1st or 2nd. In fact, I take that back too. Probably more like July 29th. Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay, now I got it. So then on July 29th, he has a day off, and he drives, I would say about 6.5 to 7 miles to the location, from where he lives to the location where the cabin is. He gets there around 1 p.m. And they really have him do a lot of acting, a lot of different types of acting. You know, happy, sad, being an apathetic guy who just walks from one end to the other, and then they would have somebody do some "Ooh, ooh," you know, stuff like that, just to scare him, to see how he would react. And he does pretty good, but they have a few. They do criticize him about a few pitfalls, and they said even despite the pitfalls, they'll teach him to overcome it. So then what happens is a few more days go by, and I think it would be around August 2nd, you know, the day before she takes a flight back to LA. They discuss a lot of other things with him, and I mean a lot. And what happens is he works out a deal where he types up his letter of resignation and he resigns from the store. And on August 15th, it's his last day. And then he starts packing like crazy. And what also happens is even though he gets all the packing done, he doesn't take down the bed and he doesn't disassemble the drawers out of the chest of drawers. And he has a love seat couch because that place, that little house he's living in, is so small. A full-size couch is going to take up too much room, and it's going to make if he has a couple of friends over, it's going to be difficult for them to walk around. They're going to have to watch where they're going too much. And the moving company, they don't care, because they're getting paid big buckaroos for this. They're probably getting paid, and I kid you not, at least $6,580, or even more than that, to go a distance of probably 2,600 to 2,800 miles from LAMOINE, Maine, to Hollywood, California. And then what happens is he packs a fairly big suitcase. It's one of those modern telescopic ones that's metal, and it can take a lot of wear and tear because it's so well made. I mean, he paid like over $200 for this thing about 6 months before this really good fortune happened with him. And he has a laptop bag, and the one thing that he forgot to pack up that he takes with him is one of these. The Holy Bible. Yes. It's the same version I have in my hand. New King James. And it's not quite time for him to leave yet. He's got about 3 hours. I mean, he's up early because he's too tweaked to sleep more than about 5-6 hours. After reading the concordance that is back in here, why don't I go ahead and read the last four verses of the book of John. It starts at 2:22, and I'll keep reading till the end. Therefore, when he had risen from the dead, his disciples remembered that he had said this to them, and they believed the scripture and the word which Jesus has said. Now, when he was in Jerusalem at the Passover, during the feast, many believed in his name when they saw the signs which he did. But Jesus did not commit himself to them because he knew them. No, excuse me. He knew all men and had no need that anyone should testify of man. He knew what was in man. Well, I honestly don't remember exactly what that was about, but I know that what was said, what I just read in the Holy Bible, is the truth. what he did, what Bradley did, was he made sure to include that in the laptop case that he put over his shoulder like this. And hi Kitty, you're with me on YouTube again. Yeah. Okay, I looked up a couple of interesting facts. The verse about John 2:22, after doing a Google AI search, meant, please Lord forgive me if I'm wrong, that Jesus' disciples believed in his teachings after he was resurrected. Here's another interesting fact about the time that it actually took on an airplane with at least one layover from, not Ellsworth, because there's no airport in Ellsworth, it's 40 miles away in Bangor, Maine. So a flight from Bangor, Maine to Los Angeles took about 9 to 10 hours. Oh yeah. And he eventually got a bus shuttle ride, or no, van shuttle ride from a location that was 2 miles away from his house. He was picked up at a public library, I believe, or a church. Yeah, it's probably more likely the parking lot of a church. And driven to Bangor, Maine, which is somewhere between 39 and 43 miles is the best personal guess I can make. And he arrived at Bangor around 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And once he arrived at the airport around 11 a.m., and he got checked in with a airline that I would assume would be affiliated with United. It might be Cape Air or something like that, or Piedmont. It wouldn't be your typical airline. And he left the airport. You know, the plane left with him in it, obviously, about 12:15 Eastern Standard Time. Now, he doesn't just get the flight there, get to LAX, and get checked in. No. Because the leasing office ain't going to be open that late. No way in the world. But here's what did happen. And no, he didn't sleep out in the street somewhere. No. He arrived at LAX around 6:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because that's actually a little more than 9 hours. It's about 9 hours and 30 minutes, because he was laid over. I would be assuming that it would be in an airport in either Missouri or Nebraska. In fact, it's probably more likely the Omaha airport, because I think the Omaha, Nebraska airport is also called Omaha whatever International Airport. At least I would assume that anyway. either the Omaha airport or the Lincoln, Nebraska airport. And he was laid over there for only an hour and a half, which is why it took 9 hours. And then he boards the flight after an hour and 30 minutes, or 35 minutes, whatever. And he takes that one from Nebraska, whether it was Lincoln or Omaha, whichever one it was, to LAX. And he gets there at 6:45. So, normally, Caroline wouldn't do this for somebody. But she thought, just this once, I'll make an exception to the rule. She picked him up, no, actually, her and her husband picked him up at the airport. Not her, him. And they went to a Denny's, and he got a nice grilled chicken sandwich with a special honey mustard on it. And he ate some onion rings. And he also had one of the most delicious glasses of iced tea, because the iced tea that restaurant gets is really good stuff. And after they enjoy their meals at Denny's, they get to their house, which is a really nice one. It's probably, I don't know what the street would be, because there's several streets in Hollywood Hills area of Los Angeles. But it's a street that would probably be near Hollywood Hills. And it's a nice 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house that is very well decorated, very good furniture, very well decorated, just out of this world great. Oh goodness. I bumped my knee on one of the legs on the activity table. And there's a nice bed made up, and she even offers him some pajamas. And he puts them on. And he gets to keep them, because they got several different sizes of men's pajamas to accompany all the guests they have. And they have a very good breakfast. Him, his wife, and Bradley. Or let me say that again. Bradley, Caroline, and her husband. Golly. I'm so deep thinking about what Bradley would be doing, I mispronounce things a little bit. Okay. And then after they have some nice omelets, a couple slices of French, or a slice of French toast cut in half so it looks really nice and pleasant, and some really, really, really good premium coffee that they probably paid over $40 for. That is, whew. I mean, when you have one cup, you won't have 2, 3, 4 until you're really wired like a, gosh, I don't like to use these words, coke addict or a meth head. Yeah. Ooh. I did meth would kill me because of my hypertension problem that I successfully keep my blood pressure under control with sleeping hooked up to a CPAP machine and taking hypertension medications twice a day. Okay, back to Bradley and him becoming a movie star. And after they eat breakfast, Caroline advises him that she has to go to work. So, a friend of hers is going to be coming over in a couple of hours, so he can make himself at home. Excuse me. Get on the computer, look at a few emails, do whatever he would like to do, or even watch a little bit of TV, because I got a very nice 65-inch high-def television. And then, after a couple of hours, the doorbell rings, and the husband answers the door. And he lets them in, and there's a nice, really nice, I think it's a Lexus SUV, and they really drive him around LA for like at least 6 to 7 hours, and they stopped to eat something at least twice at a restaurant. Yeah, by the time he gets home, he wants to go to bed. I mean, because he is wiped out from all the excitement of seeing all those nice, beautiful homes, tourist attractions, palm trees, the several beaches, locations where movies were filmed and TV episodes were filmed. I mean, he saw quite a bit. He didn't see all of Los Angeles, but he saw quite a bit. Quite a bit. They probably did, oh hell, in Los Angeles and Los Angeles Metro, oh, easily over 200 miles worth of driving. Easily. Which, if you're in LA County, that can happen easier than you think. Because there's so much zigzagging through streets to go through. And then the next day, the same two people come and get him again. And they take him really far inland to Norfolk and surrounding area, because Norfolk is at least 25 miles inland in LA County. It's pretty far, and you got a lot to see just driving along, looking this way and that way from a interstate highway. And then on the third day, he just pretty much stays home and he starts reading books that Caroline wants him to read. And then on the fourth day, move-in day. Yep. Because the way things were working, because of what the moving company had, they weren't going to be able to get that stuff to his apartment until then. But you see, he had to get to the leasing office of an area that would be about 6 to 9 blocks away from Paramount Pictures and Hollywood Walk of Fame. There's a really nice apartment building there that charges probably at least $1,800 a month for a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 680 square foot, one bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment. And he goes through a lot of stuff with the leasing department, and then they double check the records to make sure that the deposits were given to the system that were actually given by Caroline. Shh, they're supposed to know. Nobody. It was a check that was delivered through her, a company check delivered to them through her office. then they take him to his apartment, and all he's got with him is a suitcase and a laptop case. And the suitcase is pretty big. I mean, he's really got to be careful with it because he doesn't want to hurt himself as he's pulling along, and he's even watching behind himself because he doesn't want to hurt somebody or accidentally hurt a dog or a cat or a little bunny. And it's a ground level unit. I think it would be something like apartment of 9-112. And he gets in there, and inside there is Caroline's very colorful lady's handwriting. And there's a thank you note for him being involved. And then he looks in the envelope a second time. There are 2 $100 bills. Yep. So he's got some spending. He's got some more spending money. And he looks in the fridge, and there is Coca-Cola, butter, margarine, milk, eggs, bacon, sausage, 90-10 lean ground beef. There's white bread, hot dog buns, hamburger buns, and there's some. It's in a packet that's this thick. I think how you pronounce it is Saradet. It's a type of hot dog that is more likely found in New York City, but it's the same type, same company. And one of the first things he does while he's waiting for the moving company to show up is, because there's some side plates and some regular dinner plates, and there's some silverware in there too. He takes one of the hot dogs, he looks at the microwave carefully so he can anticipate before he puts it in there how long to put it in there for, because he doesn't want to overcook it or really overcook it and have it go boom, because with those hot dogs they'll blow up and they'll make the inside of the the oven, the cooking or the oven part of the microwave get really dirty and icky. So he sets it at 40 seconds and he's looking right at it like a intellectual professor, just going as it's cooking. And then at 40 seconds, he takes out the plate and he kind of goes like this and he feels it and he's like, 10 more seconds. That ought to do it. So he puts it in for 10 more seconds. And he hears this. And then he looks over the hot dogs. It's slightly overcooked, but he's like, I'll still like it. So he puts it in the bun, and he puts some really nice Del hot dog relish on there, and then he puts some mustard, and then he just chomps away one bite, and then another bite, and then a fourth bite, and then a fifth bite. Shortly after, he polishes off the whole hot dog and eats it. bite for bite, he hears this. That was just me knocking on the door, kitty. I didn't mean to scare you. Sorry, I had to do a little reassurance with my kitty. And he opens up the door and he can see through windows on either side of the door who it is. He knows. It's the moving company. And the two men come in and they look around at everything so they can anticipate on how to do the moving. And then they come in. And, you know, first it's boxes, and then it's the bed, and then it's the bed frame, and then it's the chest of drawers, which is really heavily wrapped up with a blanket over it on top of the plastic wrapping that they wrap tight around it. And then they come in with the couch, and it's so heavily wrapped up, and it's got these Z-straps over it so that it doesn't in any way ever get abused and damaged or compromised or stained or any of that business. And then when all the boxes are there, he has to sign off to say that he that everything was done completely. And then he says, hey guys, I'd like to know, how much does this cost to do the moving? And the guy just looks at him like, I can't tell you. Or otherwise, if I do tell you, sayonara, I'm going to lose the job. I'm not going to be working for this company anymore. So, okay, sorry for asking. No, that's right, but I just can't tell you. Can't do it. Good luck. And then he shakes hands with the two guys, and they leave. And he starts unpacking box after box after box after box after box after box for at least 5 hours and 39 minutes. And then there's 2 more boxes to go, but he is spent. He's like, forget it. I'll do that tomorrow. I feel like I'm gonna collapse. And he goes upstairs and he hadn't even made the bed, he just lays down on it and he just for about an hour and a half. And then he wakes up and he goes over to the kitchen. And there's a coffee maker and it's one of those KRUPS brand ones. There's a coffee maker that's had a little bit of use, but for the most part it looks pretty clean and shiny. But when he really looks at it, he says, this has only been used about 7 or 8 times. Maybe not even that much. And he rinses it out because there's a little bit of dust in there. And, the thing that holds the coffee filter. And he dries it out. And then he looks for some coffee. The only thing he can find out of any, it's one source of coffee, and it's one of those 16-ounce bags. It's called Starbucks. I think it would the full title would be Italian seasoning or Italian something. Italian roast, I think. Italian roast, medium roast, or Italian roast, dark roast. It's probably Italian roast, medium roast. So he looks in the drawers and he finds a scoop for coffee. Goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he fills up the cafe, and he pours it in there, and he puts the coffee thing, the coffee pot back in there. I think they pronounce it cafe or cafe. And he turns on the on thing, and everything goes just fine. And he looks in one of the areas where the glassware and the dinnerware would be, you know, plates, bowls, you know, all that kind of stuff. He finds a nice, and it's in very good condition. It's new. He finds a nice, what's called brown drip coffee mug. That's a nice 1970s style coffee mug, but he don't care. He's like, cool. So he pours it in there, and he looks for some coffee cream, and he finds it, and he looks for some sugar. No sugar, but what there is in there is sweet and low. It's in a box where there's like 40 to 60 packets. So he takes one out, and he goes, zzz, and then he takes out a spoon and he stirs it, done deal. And then after that, he's really, really hungry. So he looks in the freezer, and what's in there is it's called barbecue meatloaf with mashed potatoes, and I think there's what's called kennel corn. And he looks at the instructions, pops it in the microwave, and then he examines it carefully. He says, oh, it's just a little bit overcooked, but who cares? I'll eat it. He gets out a spoon and a fork, and he goes over to the couch and just eats it. Well, what happens next is a couple more days later, he goes into a area of Paramount Pictures where I think it would be like stage 20, stage 22, something like that. And he really starts having meetings where where they go through the script, and he isn't just the only actor there. There are 12 different actors there. 12. One guy, I'm not going to say his name, but he's a guy in his 70s, and he's been a famous actor for at least 25 years. Yep. Nice, distinguished gray-haired gentleman with a suit, with a dress shirt and a necktie. No suit coat, just dress shirt and a necktie and nice dress pants and nice dress shoes. Well, the filming of the movie, the movie title is Runaway of Maine, M-A-I-N-E. Yeah. and parts of it are filmed in Maine, but the rest of it's just filmed in a really well designed soundstage in Paramount Pictures. Okay, the time that it takes to film the movie is 2.5 months. And on February 12th, 2 days before Valentine's Day, February 12th of 2018, the movie is premiered. And that movie is so good. It makes on a 11.8 instead of $12.5 million, it only costs $11.8 million. It costs $11.8 million to make. The movie makes at the box office $929 million. That's almost $1 billion. Yeah. And let me tell you, Bradley went from a guy who was earning about just a tiny bit less than $25,000 a year in Maine then when the picture was made, in 3 months he had $42,000 of earnings. That's $14,000 times 3. And because he gets a percentage of the profit, because it was $14,000 plus a percentage of the profit, he was actually, let me explain it a little bit more in greater detail so people understand what's going on here. Is $14,000 times 3, that's $42,000. That's $42,000 in the month of August, September, and October. And then he was paid a lump sum of $2.5 million. I mean, he is loaded. I mean, he's not extremely wealthy, but he's loaded. All the same. And the percentage of the profits that he got from money, earning so much money, I think it was 6%. Just a second. The best guess I can make was $8.8 million. That's quite a lot. And there's already talk. It's going to be a totally different type of movie, but there's already a lot of deals that are in the works of him becoming a really brave LAPD homicide detective. Yeah. Because the movie that's going to come out is a scary one. A lot of people who come in to see the movie leave the movie theater and they run in the bathroom and they get sick. and a couple of people have heart attacks inside the movie theater itself. Whew. It's quite a controversy, isn't it? Well, that's the end of this vlog. I know this has been quite a long one. Thank you everyone for this vlog. And goodbye now. Thanks a lot.